I feel like we have to talk about the Stephon Clark shooting. This, of course, the third high-profile killing of a black man by Sacramento police in 2 years.
On this case, I asked the Attorney General to be part of an independent part of the investigation, and then he's also going to review it at the end. And that's never really happened before. And the reason I did that is not because I don't trust our investigators to do it. They're very skilled folks. It's that, part of this issue on all of this is a trust level for the police department. If the community that is concerned about this had a high level of trust of the police department and believed that the police department was going to do a thorough investigation that got to the facts, and then the result is going to be appropriate to what the facts say, we wouldn't see some of the stuff that we've seen.
When you talk to your officers, how do they feel about what we see? What is their response and reaction to some of the protests and some of the comments from the community that we're hearing?
I would be remiss if I didn't say I've been extremely impressed with how the officers in our department have responded and handled the protests that you speak of. I think it doesn't take long to look at some of the footage of some of these protests and see that there's violence in some. In all of them, there were people getting in the officers' faces and yelling and screaming and saying vile things to the officers and doing things. And the officers stood there and they didn't respond. It could have gone very differently if the officers had acted out towards the protesters. Especially for the black officers, it's been exceptionally hard because at every one of these protests, if there's a black officer on the line, a lot of the anger and vitriol from the protesters is directed at that black officer and calling them sellouts and other names.
You were sworn in August 2017, so hasn't been a year yet.
Nope.
What's your opinion of things right now?
I think it's just an example of what I knew before I came back in terms of the relationship between police and community. That is not where we want it to be. As a police department, we need to continue to evolve and be what all of our communities need. As a community, we need to evolve.
So that does beg the question, how do you change it? What do you do?
Well, first and foremost, we have to admit that we need to change it. I mean, that's the first step. But I think it's also expanding the experiences of everybody.
Are there some things that you're doing in the department to aid officers in that, changing their experiences?
The last academy that graduated in December, we took the entire academy, our members of the academy, on the Oak Park Peace Walk. And then the following week we had a day of service in Oak Park where they partnered with community members and mowed lawns, painted houses for a day, had lunch with the community members. And all of that is in an effort to expand their experiences in a neighborhood that they might not be from before they ever put on a uniform.
Talk about some of the things that have changed since you have begun to lead this department.
A lot less lethal equipment, beanbag shotguns, 40mm projectile rifles, things like that provide other options for officers to deal with people in mental health crisis or other situations that they don't have to use their firearm. And that way people can live another day to deal with the issues that they were dealing with. And I think those are significant changes, and we've already seen numerous times where they've been used, where maybe in the past something worse would have happened. I went out and talked to the academy that's in right now, I said, raise your hand if you've had family members ask you about what's going on and now are concerned about you being a police officer more than they were before. Every single person raised their hand. I said, how many people have been asked by their family not to do this? A lot of them raised their hand. And so it's not only stressful at work, but when they get home, it's stressful too. We're better than this, right? We're better than what we've seen in other cities. We can truly get better from this if we really want to. So let's not talk about the little on the fringes issues. Let's get better. Let's do this so our kids and our grandkids don't have to have this. Let's be the example to whoever else wants to watch.